Good evening and welcome to our special meeting tonight. We have several things on the agenda that we needed to talk about before the end of July, so we decided to get back together again. The first thing we'd like to do is begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please join us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll please ask that you join us in a moment of silence that you can use for silent prayer, reflection, to prepare for the meeting, or however you choose to use your time. Thank you very much. At this time, we will open the floor for citizen comments on public matters. We ask that you come down front to the podium. Please state your name for the record. Use the microphone so that we can be sure to hear you and that they can hear you online. Limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. We're pulling up a screen that will have a timer on it, so you'll be able to monitor how much time you have left. And at this time, we'll open the floor for citizen comments on public matters.
Hello, I'm Mary Sims, and I missed the last few meetings for other reasons, and I have watched you on Facebook and whatnot, and there is one slight problem. We have a hard time hearing people who do not use the microphone. So like y'all four, you're leaning back in your chairs and you're comfortable and the microphone's in the middle. If you could please speak into it. And if anybody on the front 2 rows, a lot of times you have public comments to make during the session, please come up to the microphone. That way everybody gets a chance to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angie McCauley. I live at 404 Preston Street here in Radford. I have nothing prepared. I'm just going to speak from the heart for a moment. I want to speak to support for the local match funds for Radford Public Schools. I wear several hats, but first and foremost, I'm a parent. I have 2 older children that are in the high school that both receive special education services for vastly different reasons, and I have a young son who will enter the preschool program in a couple of years. So I'm very vested as a parent. Do live here in Radford. Whatever decisions you all make, whether it's this topic or others, I will feel the brunt of that as well, and I'm willing to take on that extra tax burden to see the investment for our future, for our children. And in full transparency, I'm a public school teacher here in Radford City Schools. I have been in education for 26 years. I hope to finish my career here, but it's not a professional reason that I'm here. It's a personal reason for my children and for the other children in the school system. So I hope that you'll consider. I know it's a weighted decision and it's not taken lightly, but I hope that you'll really think about the return on investment of the funds that you could put forward in order for us to obtain a significant amount of funding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Regina Meredith, and I live on Rock Road. I would like to speak to the school board's request for additional funds from the city. I served as a teacher or counselor in the public school system for more than 40 years. I'm 100% in support of any school system being fully funded to meet the needs of its staff and students. It is not unusual for the state to dangle a carrot only to ask localities to provide matching funds for extra state funding to come to fruition. For some localities, this is a viable task. However, for others, it is an impossible task. I want to commend council for putting on the brakes and realizing that all entities that make the city work have to be considered before granting this request. In addition, you are correct in thinking that additional funding will become the baseline for next year's school budget. So I'd just like to encourage you to take that into consideration should more funds come from the city. And I love my school people. I will always defend school people, and I really hope that somehow the funding will be there for you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any comments for the public record? Seeing none, we will close that portion of the meeting, and we will move forward with one of our primary reasons for getting together tonight. Under our public hearing, we do need to consider an electric standby service tariff. And we're required to do this to be able to move forward with standby service that is part of Ordinance 1834. And at this time, I'll ask Tim Logwood, who's our Director of Radford Electric, to please come to the podium and share some thoughts about why this is important for us to consider and exactly what we would be deciding to move forward with.
Okay, thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak today, and thank you, Todd. So the standby service rate structure that we're considering tonight was developed and is required for us to manage the power supply for the proposed cogen operation at Radford University. Some things we're going to talk about a little bit, some background on the cogen, a little bit of background on the power supply, and a little bit on the rates themselves. So, on the cogen, Radford University sent us interconnection requests back in March of 2022, and then gave us notice August of 2022 of their certification of a FERC qualifying facility. And that's a federal license for them to operate the plant regardless of any city action. The preliminary time frame that they gave us after that was that it would be in operation June 1 of this year, which coincided of us coming off our APCO contract and going on to a new supply. So the power supply background, I'm sure you're aware, last November in 2024, we signed, you gave the city manager at the time authorization to execute live pricing on power supply, and we did that. We received, CMS Energy was awarded that bid, and that was given in response to a Blue Ridge Power Agency request for proposals in 2023. So all this is kind of coming together at the same time. And what that power supply did not include was Radford University's load. So the thought is they would be on cogen, we did not have to supply that power. And we started this June on the new contract. How rates are developed and what has transpired with rates, a cost of service study was completed early in 2025. With this year's budget, we did a retail rate review and revenue requirements with our consultants, and it was kind of completed during the budget process. And you approved all the existing rates in April of this year. The standby service, the terms and conditions, was not available at that time. It was not complete, so we worked on finalizing those. Currently, Radford University would be the only customer that would qualify for this rate. So that's why we're here tonight. Radford University is on a large general service tariff or schedule. The standby service schedule that we're considering, it has pass-through provisions for the power supply that we get from PJM Energy Market. Those purchases will flow through this rate to serve Radford University. We have some discretion when, once it's effective, when to put the university on it, but it's my recommendation that we go ahead and do that as soon as possible to alleviate any risk that the city might have on the market to supply their needs. So.
Thank you so much, Tim. I do want to just point out a couple things in your presentation. As you mentioned, The decision to have the cogen facility had nothing to do with the city deciding yes or no. That the university went to the Federal Energy Regulation Commission and got permission to do it regardless, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
And
that's
so
something
it
that,
wasn't a decision of, yeah, this makes sense, go on and do this. And as such, the university made it clear that they would be limiting, at some degree, limiting power purchases from the city. So when we had to make a change from our wholesale power contract, we had a decision to make about what we would commit to purchasing.
exactly.
And so we did not include that in there. And so now, at this point, with cogen not being live yet, and if the university were to have significant power needs, we would have to purchase those, and that does present some level of risk exposure to the city without having this tariff in place. Is that
Correct.
accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions?
When are they now saying they're going to be online?
I haven't seen an announcement in our discussions with them. You know, they're targeting by the end of the year, but in my, just understanding of their supply chain, it's probably more like next spring before it gets running, so.
Could I ask Tim, could you help, because I'm still a little rusty on all this electrical stuff, the risks that we have, and why we're at risk? What
Okay.
could cause us to have to lose money on
Well,
supplying them?
The majority of our power through the CMS contract is at a fixed rate, energy rate. But there is a portion, small portion of Radford's native load that excludes Radford University. And Radford University's load is bought on the market. It's bought on the day-ahead market. And that's subject to weather events. Weather events can make prices go high. When the weather's calm, prices can be, good for us. But that risk is eliminated because with this tariff, because those load allocated and monitored and purchased for Radford University is passed through.
So what you're saying, I think, is the rate could go up above what they are on the scale, and what do we call it? Their rate is set at a certain amount right now?
You talking about the wholesale costs?
Will you go back a couple of slides
Okay.
where it showed what Radford University's listing was?
They fall into that top category of a.
Large general service?
Yeah, so what they use from us is set at that price? But if the wholesale price goes up, they would still be at that price, and unless we do something here.
Well, the LGS rate structure would not cover a significant increase in wholesale prices.
Okay.
This tariff would, so.
Any other questions?
How often, do you know, can we revisit this? Since this is new to us, if we put this in place, is this binding for X amount of time, or can we reevaluate?
You can reevaluate it at any time. The important thing to keep in mind, though, to change the rate will require a public hearing, but it can be revisited at any time.
Okay. Any other questions for Tim? All right, thank you, sir. At this time, we will open the public hearing for any questions from the public. We'll do our best. Hopefully, this presentation helped answer most of the questions that you all might have regarding this subject, but certainly if you have questions, come down to the microphone at the podium, state your name for the record. There is no limit on time for the public hearing portion of the meeting, and we will begin our public hearing at 6:15. Tim, you did such a good job. Everybody has all their questions answered. We will go on and close the public hearing portion of the program, as I don't see anyone coming forward with any additional questions. And at this time, we will move forward with old business. As has already been mentioned, the state budget that was recently released included adjustments in funding for special education add-ons, class size reduction, Virginia preschool initiatives, compensation supplements, and at-risk students. To receive these funds, the Radford City Public Schools have to have us, as the City of Radford, to provide a matching contribution in the amount of $205,209, which is a little bit of 16% of the total amount that the schools would receive for that. Dr. Joyce is here as the superintendent of schools to share a little bit of information. So, Dr. Joyce, if you have something you'd like to share, come on up to the podium, and we will begin to discuss this even further.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council, thanks again for having me to the podium to help us all understand better what we're up against, okay? And I appreciate the backstory. If I might just add a little bit to that while she pulls up my PowerPoint. Thanks again for putting us on tonight's agenda. We appreciate your time and attention to this important matter. For clarity, I'd like to recap some of the talking points that were covered last week. As you're well aware, the state delayed sending us a budget until June 26th. Beyond that, the calculation tools that schools use to formulate local spending was delayed even further into July. Among the good news included in the state's budget was a more robust investment in K-12. It's great news for our students, our teachers, and our community at large. Many line items were increased to help our teachers be more prepared to teach and our facilities to be more conducive to learning. With that support comes the expectation that the locality will provide a matching contribution. The required local matching fund is considerably smaller than the state's share. For the city's match of $205,209, the state will contribute nearly $1.4 million. This $1.4 million is allocated across several key funding categories, including special education, support for at-risk students, infrastructure improvements, and compensation packages. I stand before you tonight urging you to fulfill this funding request. And while our capital reserve fund has been utilized in recent years, relying on it for purposes that run counter to its intended function is not best practice and clearly not sustainable. That reserve fund cannot serve as a long-term strategy. Continually drawing from this fund in ways that undermine its purpose amounts to a form of internal cannibalization, and that approach is not viable. I respectfully ask that Council consider and plan for the probability that beginning next year, anticipated local contribution to increase by approximately $120,000. That's my math, that's our math. That's not, as you know, that's not concrete because everything can change. But 120 is the number that we've landed on as a new baseline for matches and local required effort. That is it in a nutshell.
So can I ask you a question
You
about
can.
that real quickly? You just said 125 or so for next year, but the match this year is the 205. Why would it be different?
Enrollment fluctuations, anything the state decides to do with that calc tool, we're at their mercy.
Okay.
So I'm afraid to go much beyond that, or even frankly below that. That's the number that we've come up with as a safe bet that may be the new basement next year.
If the state doesn't provide as robust a matching program next year, which they can do, correct?
Sure.
Like they could say, we're not going to give you $1.4 million if you give 200,000 or 120 or whatever it is.
Sure.
All of the things that we've put in here will still be baked in the cake, so to speak, within the budget. When you raise salaries, when you add additional programming and all that, how would we manage that if the state didn't provide us with the additional match as they are this year?
Well, that's when our admin team and the school board members will have to go to work to find the money. And it could mean that something gets jettisoned. We don't like to do that, but that's when, frankly, the board earns its money and we go to work on what can be kept easily and what needs to be considered to be cut. And as you know, that's happened before. And that's a real threat. But I think if you read the newspaper, Virginia continues to pile on revenue to the tune of $600 million last quarter. So, you know, without my crystal ball, it looks pretty good.
Well, we think so too. We appreciate that, but none of that 600 million's coming to us to be able to give you this 200,000. So that's the hard part with it. But I get what you're saying, and my hope is that the state will continue to robustly fund education. Everybody wants to see our Bobcats do exceptionally well.
Sure.
It's just when it puts that local match on a locality that is working to stabilize the financial position, that adds a burden. And I think
Absolutely.
that's the difficult challenge. So you mentioned your capital fund.
Yes,
Have
sir.
you and the board had an opportunity to talk about what was proposed at the last meeting to see if we can make something happen for this year?
Yes.
And what is that answer? Is that something you all are willing to do, understanding everything that you're concerned about, that the intent of the capital improvement fund is to deal with issues that might arise and to address some of the things that we have to spend money on, but as a short-term measure, as no one expected any of this to come down exactly the way that it did, is that something that is workable with the school board and with the administration to get this done now so that we can make sure that our Bobcats are funded as best they can be and that it doesn't add additional burden for the remainder of the citizens in the city?
So all of my life, Radford City Schools has been here. Under my watch, Radford City Schools is going to be here. What that looks like, I'm not at liberty to say. But I took an oath to take care of these kids and these teachers. So wherever that funding may come from is to be determined. So the short answer to your question is we will go to work and find a way to keep Radford City Schools at the level that they expect to be. So with that, I mean, I feel like now we've kind of put the cart before the horse here. I do want to show you the numbers.
Okay, I thought you were done with your presentation.
Oh, no,
I
no, no.
apologize. Show us the numbers. That's fine.
Well, I mean, just for the numbers' sake, special education add-on. So what you see at the state share is what they'll kick in as long as we kick in $151 and $1. What is highlighted is a $78,000 increase from what you guys helped us approve in the spring. Okay? So that's a total of just under $1 million. For the at-risk, which, if you're not sure, includes our kids in poverty determined by household income, other related indicators of being disadvantaged, including our English learners. The state share has increased dramatically to $3.9 million. Our share before was $735, at now would be now is a $735 share with a $10,000 increase for a total of $4.6 million in total funding for at-risk. Compensation supplement, again, the state share is $850,000. The local share was increased by almost $80,000 for a total of just over $1 million. And then infrastructure and operations per pupil, the state share is $1.2 million. Our share with an added $41,000 would be $228,000 for a grand total of $1.4. And I do want to bring something to your attention, and I'll have to read off the screen. The required local effort did decrease due to an increase in sales tax funding from the state. So so this includes the $3,885 decrease in your local required effort that's now reflected in the new number of 205.
So let me ask you that then. What you're saying is what we budgeted in the budget that was passed in the spring, we have $3,800 that has been freed up for that. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like much, but
Every dollar counts. We've been counting pennies, we've been counting nickels, every dollar counts.
Right.
So we get it.
okay.
Absolutely. And I apologize, I thought you had completed what you wanted to share. Is there anything else that you want to share with
No,
us?
I'm happy to answer questions about the math.
Counsel? Any questions?
I love Radford. I love the town. I love the education I got here. But as you have your responsibilities to the school board, we have our responsibilities to the city and people of Radford. And with what's going on right now, I just don't see a way to support this.
I'm glad to hear you say that we would be able to find a way, you guys would be able to find a way regardless of what happens here, because I don't think anyone up here would say anything different than our schools are one of the benchmarks in this city that people come here for. I've said over and over again, I have a huge vested interest in not only the here and now, but the future of our city. And I want my kids to get the same education that I did at Radford City Schools. I'm so blessed to have come through that school system. Many of us are. I prefer that we be able to find a way to use this from the capital reserves as an exception, not the expectation. I understand your point of being, that those are and the intended purpose for those are capital projects, and it's not if, it's when they would be needed. You don't land on the fiscally distressed order from the governor unless your locality is really, trying to get their financial house in order.
Sure.
I think for the long-term sustainability of the schools, you can't have a healthy school system if you don't have a healthy city. And we are working hard to get that. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And so I hope that we're in a very different place when this conversation happens next year. And I do. I think we have the team that it will be that. And, you're a part of that team, and so we appreciate everything that you guys are doing, and I hope, I understand that that's a big ask, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. And I do appreciate all this, and there's no doubt that these go to very vital things that no one would disagree on, and we want to see continued. It's just finding a way to do that while we also get where we need to be as a city.
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
I know that you really would prefer not to use that capital reserve, but, it is very rare that schools are allowed to even carry a capital reserve that we're carrying. As a city, we're trying to build our own capital reserves, and the money that you hold is taxpayer money to be utilized towards the school's needs. So I am also of the mindset that at least this year, as we're looking at things, I would like to see if it's possible to come out of the reserves. I think that's our road to yes at this juncture.
Thank you.
My thoughts are the same as Seth and Jesse. As much as I don't want to do that, and I know that, all of the council that's going to continue on next year, and I think I speak for the two that are not, that we don't want this to become a precedent at all, but it's something that we have to do right now, and that's kind of the only option that we have. I do remember not so long ago when the school was trying to rebuild some of the things that were not really what they wanted, and they brought you on, and you have completely turned, in my opinion, the school system around, and you are a godsend for so many reasons, and this is one of them. You've provided a lot of information. You're always for the schools, and I have no doubt that the schools are going to stay up here with you at their helm.
Well, I appreciate that.
We are trying to do the same thing. We are trying to, right our ship, and we are going in the right direction. And we made several comments last meeting of how, we're paying off our debt. We've got a better system in place. We're working on our Six Sigma. We're doing everything we can. But like you, we have this pot of money, and we have to decide between so many entities. And you have to decide, your high school is 50 years old, but there's things at Dalton, but there's things at McCarg. You have to decide where to allocate your money in your different groups, and we're just trying to do the same thing. And I don't foresee this becoming a precedent at all. I know that's one thing that several of you are worried about. We do not want that at all. But again, we are going to be looking at a bigger match next year, given this situation we're in now. So, and we will try our hardest to budget for that. And I think we did very well to budget for it this year, and approve it, the same day. And that's our goal going forward, is to support you every way that we can.
And I'll just say, I think everybody's in unison in wanting our Bobcats to have the very best. I think the question that I'll come back to, because I do think we still have to take action to affirmatively say we will provide a match. It's just the source of the match. Is that accurate?
Yes, an appropriations ordinance.
That's right. So I guess we have to say, are you all in a place where you want to say yes, that together we'll partner, use the capital funds and the carryover from the $70,000 for the retirement plan that has not yet been put into place to get us where we need to be for this year? Is that where we are?
With great hesitation, I would say yes.
Okay. And I understand this. Nobody wants to be in this position. I think the city would love to be in the position where our reserves are so strong that this comes down, we say, awesome, a $1.4 million increase from the state, here's $200,000, no problem. One day we will be there. We're just not there today. And I think the real key is us working together to find this solution. The good news is it was moved forward last time. even though I might have some reservations where we are to be ready for it, but to put in the new sales tax as on the referendum as a way that if the citizens feel like we absolutely need to increase the capital improvement funds or capital funds for the schools, there's a method for that. And so we have some opportunity to do that. So, yes, ma'am.
I have one more comment. So we have the $70,000 that I think is a great tool that you wanted to implement.
Sure.
But then we also discussed in this meeting that we had kind of gotten back $30-some thousand, I guess, in, what do we, it was something that you mentioned, it was like $36,000 or
tax?
something. What?
The sales tax?
No, the $3,800 you just, yeah, $3,800.
So if you wanted to keep
Yeah,
your,
I
is it an
think- I think
option
that's
to
fine, but
keep your
that's built in.
70,000, you know, minus the 38 or some such math, and take out more of your reserves? If you wanted to still keep that
Oh, I
70,000 that
understand.
you wanted to,
Sure.
it's all your choice.
Right.
I think. I mean, I think we're willing to work with anything that is the most comfortable for you. But
Right.
I would entertain that as well if you still wanted to keep that money that you had put
Right.
forth for retirement.
I was thinking we would make the motion if this works for everybody, and I know we'll eventually have to come back and do a formal appropriation, but to make the motion that council supports the local match, and it's to be determined with staff exactly how we fund that with no new additional money from the city being moved over.
If you can put that in a motion, that would help me a
Yeah,
lot.
give you some flexibility
think
to
we
go
can
back with
do
your
that.
team
I
and
think
figure out
that's
what you
fine,
guys want to
and-
do.
Darting
I
that
know
carry.
you're hesitant, but
I'm
I
like-
just, look, I'm putting all of our cards on the table just as you are, because we need to come to this very openly and transparently for everybody that we want to get this done, and we want to make this happen, but how it happens, because we don't want anybody to believe we're committing additional dollars from the city budget that we have not budgeted for to this, because there's not support for that,
Okay.
unfortunately. And then we need to just be flat out honest that, yes, we're going to figure it out, but it's with already allocated money that's available in the capital reserve carryover that we'll be able to figure out, or however you determine is best to do that.
I think that would be best moving forward, because if I lock Carrie in a room and we look for money, we might be able to find money.
Carrie's a magician, so I'm hoping that'll just make the rabbit pop out of the hat real fast. So, no, that sounds good to me. I'll make that motion that we'd like to move forward with finding a way to provide the additional local match funds for Radford City Public Schools, but that staff work, both city and school staff, to determine the best source of those funds without adding additional new city money to the school budget. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? You got a 5-0 vote. You got your match. We're going to be able to do all these things, so it's a win for everybody.
Would you oblige me for just about one more minute?
Absolutely.
So, back in June, this was presented to the school board as things that need attention at Radford City Schools. And I want to say, first of all, thank you to council for passing the referendum to place the 1% sales tax on the ballot, okay? But frankly, you caught me off guard. I wasn't able to make my spiel in favor of that. So if you don't mind me backtracking just a moment, I would like to just explain the highlights of this 1% sales tax. And I'll try not to bore you with the things that you already know, but there may be, and so this may be the biggest bullhorn I have from now until November, so I just need a second.
We'll invite you back anytime you want to come back to talk about it.
Yeah, I think you should come back again before the election to give a refresher of everything
Right.
that you're about to say,
Right.
because I can already say I'm 100% be
And-
happy about it.
Yeah, and personally, I think that the best case we can make is for whatever specific things you would want to spend that money on, and almost put it together as a proposal for a project that we're going to improve whatever it happens to be at whatever school, because I think that makes it concrete for people if we are going to move forward with it. And when I've said we're not ready, that's the whole point that I've talked about, that we haven't really made a case for this specific project to move forward, much as we did with McCarg over all the years and the things that we had to do.
Right. Okay, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, but go on and say whatever you'd like to say, but definitely know you're welcome to come back and share this again before the election.
Well, I'll just check with Mr. Meredith about maybe getting on the agenda.
Yeah.
And while I have Mr. Meredith's attention, I appreciate his work with me and Carrie and Ms. Cox on getting this presentation ready and bringing it to your attention, because Mr. Meredith has made himself available every day, and we just pick a time when we meet and we try to iron out the details before we bore you guys with it. So thank you. I think that's the magic.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure.
Adam, the feeling's mutual. They've been great to work with, you and Carrie both. It's a pleasure to work with you all.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
We're feeling the
all
love a
right.
little bit here.
So real quickly, a Radford City School facilities study that you see here before you includes $52 million of projects that need to be completed in the next 10 years to keep Radford City School facilities where they're supposed to be. Okay, now all of us want a new facility. I'm not here tonight to advocate for that, but what I am here to advocate for is the citizens of Radford and the visitors to Radford to be able to choose, for maybe the first time that I know of, a way that their money is going to be spent. So if I pay a sales tax in the city of Radford, I know that 1% of that is going to go directly to school construction and renovation, okay? And here's what floored some of us in my office, is that in 10 years, the Bell Heath addition and renovations will be 17 years old. So 27 years old. It's 17 years old now. That's hard for me to believe. 27 years old by the time this facility study, goes away and we get another one. All of our schools need attention. Even McCarg. McCarg needs $2.7 million worth of renovations and attention at this point. Most of that is mechanical and architectural, and I won't bore you with that, but some of you know what I'm talking about. These are things like cracks in the sidewalk, cracks in the foundation, cracks in the walls. So those things can't go ignored, but just know that McCarg, in its infancy right now, I consider, is still $2.7 million behind. So how would we use that? Well, here's our priority list. And there are things from bleachers at the high school to, a new roof here and there, new lighting, new plumbing, new HVAC, all the things, okay? It's all right here, and we're very proud of the work that was done. So each year, our budget includes funding to address the costs of maintaining our aging infrastructure, including maintenance, upgrades, and repairs. We are grateful for the opportunity to place our carryover funds into the Capital Reserve Fund each year. We do appreciate that opportunity. Our most recent projects include new seating at the stadium, a brand-new track, playground fencing, and parking lot paving. So those are things that we've kind of saved up for, and we try to click those things off as they become priority. With this 1% tax, Radford City Schools will no longer necessarily need to ask City Council to approve dollars earmarked for capital projects. So to the best of my research, that would equate to about 1.6. And if I'm wrong, Todd, you just shoot me down, because that is my research. Am I too far off?
For the annual annual revenue, I think it'd be about 1 point, yeah. And if you take into account it's over a 20-year period, that number will increase annually.
Right. And I'm glad that the slip up about real estate tax came up, because this doesn't tax your citizens in Radford. It doesn't tax our friends and neighbors. It taxes visitors from Fairlawn, okay? It taxes folks off the interstate. It taxes our friends at Radford University, the kids that may come here and buy things that we can tax. It does not include groceries. It does not include personal hygiene. And it will cannot go towards existing debt, sadly. Will it be enough to build a new high school? Obviously not right now, but taking care of what we have needs to be our priority. The revenue, again, cannot be used for recurring operating costs. No salaries, no instructional materials, no day-to-day expenses. Legislation includes a safeguard to ensure the revenue would provide an additional funding source for school capital needs that would not replace existing local funding for these projects, but simply supplement. Virginia sales tax generally applies to many physical goods purchased in retail stores, leased or rented items, short-term lodging, restaurant purchases, clothing, electronics, furniture, office supplies, and similar tangible goods. Basic services, again, such as haircuts, repairs, purely digital, grocery, and hygiene products are not subject to the tax. The legislation states that this additional local tax would not apply to food purchased for human consumption or essential personal hygiene. While many retail purchases are made at the same place, a lot of those items are exempt. So that goes back to a family who does struggle sometimes with the grocery bill. As we all see inflation, rear its ugly head, this does not affect those families. This sales tax will apply to purchases made in Radford by citizens and visitors. Again, many other sales tax increases affect only the citizens of Radford. This 1% will help our school facilities when visitors from Fairlawn, Christiansburg, Blacksburg, Radford University come to our city to spend money. So that I wanted to put that out there. My door's open, my phone is always ready to accept questions to any answers that anyone may have about this tax. You're going to see it pushed in a lot of different localities in the state of Virginia. Now's when the work begins, is to make sure the citizens understand what it is, what it isn't, what it can do, and what it's not allowed to do. And I'm happy to answer questions.
I appreciate you bringing all that stuff up, and I think that is helpful to have part of that discussion. Again, the best recommendation that I can make as sitting up here, but also as a citizen, is take your top priorities, whatever that handful of things are, or that number one thing is, and make the case for that, because that's what we're essentially asking people to fund. And I think that's the most important thing, is that we say, if it's this project, this is what it's going to cost, this is why we have to have it, and to put it on there. Because these things are not always successful the first time they're put on the ballot, and I think a lot of that is because the case is not strong enough for people to say, yes, I want to increase my own taxes to be able to pay for this, no matter how good the plans are for a long-term need that, yes, we know we're going to have this someday, but someday's not today necessarily. And I think getting to that is helpful and would certainly help make the case as we move forward. But you are certainly invited back as you all develop that and to share that. And I think together we can share those messages with the community and go from there. Council, does anybody else have any questions?
Well, as you know, before I even crack these binders, we know that the bleachers at the high school are not operable. They don't retract. That costs us how many square footage of PE space? We have no way for accessibility to the bleacher level, and we have no elevator in the high school. So before I even crack this open, and many of us can think right off the top of our head, wow, where could we use 1.6 plus or minus to keep these schools where they're supposed to be? Now, if I may, I have that I just read to you that I can distribute to council if that's okay.
That sounds good. Thank you, Adam. We appreciate it.
Dr.
And
Joyce.
thank you to the school board, and thank you to the staff. I know you all have worked really hard on this, both in terms of the match and this potential capital improvement. You're fine. I think this is all something we have to work together on as a community. Like I said last time, my big concern was we have so many challenges that we're trying to deal with, and we're not necessarily ready because we didn't know what we're going to have to do budget season next year and the year beyond and everything along that line. But I think if a case can be made and the citizens of this community decide this is what we want to do, that's their choice, and we move forward from there. I would hate to see us go this far and not be able to make it successful. So I think we can make that happen. All right, folks, thank you all very much. I think we took care of our old business. Moving on to new business, we do have some opportunity for some participation in a project to provide some economic development. Tall Oaks Ventures LLC has requested to dedicate multiple public utility easements along with water and sewer lines to the city of Radford. Location of the easements and lines are on parcels 28-7-1 and 28-7-2. They currently feed the Food City site. Radford City Engineering and Water Wastewater Departments have reviewed the request and don't see a conflict. Council, you all have Ordinance 1832. What do you all think? Do you have any questions?
No questions, just excited to see this.
I think it's good. It's economic development, it's growth, it's things that can help with the sales tax, it's things that can help with the city budget. It's not something we can make announcements on today, but I think it's certainly something that will move Radford forward significantly. Any other questions? Anything else from you, Todd, or anything you want to share with us? Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance 1832 for a public utility easement for Tall Oaks Ventures. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to our next order of business, we just had our public hearing a few minutes ago and had the presentation from Tim Logwood regarding the electric standby service tariff. Council, do you all have any additional questions regarding ordinance number 1834 for that tariff? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or question?
Mayor,
Yeah.
and this question is directed for Tim. Do we need an effective date to add to that before we pass? Yeah, there's a blank in the agreement for it.
Just on the effective date, should be, tomorrow or before the end of the month.
So if the effective date is before the end of the month, it can be effective from July 1st forward, so it would cover the month of July. Is that how you're billing? Yes, yeah. So the billing in August would be for July 1st.
But I think that the safest thing is to have it, you could adopt it today.
Yeah, just turn it a little bit more.
Safest thing is always to have it effective at a date certain, either today or in the future. If your billing is retroactive, you haven't initiated billing for July, I think that's probably acceptable as well.
How about we make an effective date of July 23rd, 2026? That'll be tomorrow.
I have a question.
Okay.
Just to clarify, so when we make this effective date, that is going to make Radford University's new rate this rate, which is more than what they're paying now.
Tim, I'm going to defer to you, but it's my understanding that it's once they reach those peak usage, peak loads. And the purpose for trying to get this effective as soon as possible is to mitigate the risk that there is a possibility without this tariff that the city could lose money on what we're selling to Radford. And we don't know what July really looks like until the end of the month. So if it were effective July 1st, it protects the city from if that were to be the case in July, that the usage and the market
For
rate
July's bill, yeah.
worked out where it would cost more than we were going to make, it would prevent us the city from losing money in that scenario. And it may be best to make the effective date at an even break in the billing period, July 1st or August 1st, because
Yeah, I think that would be difficult from a billing aspect to
Yeah.
make it in the middle, so.
yeah. So if you make it effective July 1st, you're mitigating risk for the month of July. If we make it effective August 1st, it'll be in effect after this month.
All right, what's the proper amendment?
Yeah, I guess I'm asking, what date do you want? July 1, retroactively?
And protects the city, right?
Okay.
The best. Yep.
Again, I'm just making sure, so this new rate is just for their excess over their normal usage. Isn't that what you just said? And it's to mitigate
Tim,
losses that we may incur because of cogen.
The rate has a different structure, so,
Yes.
it allows us to pass through those wholesale costs to the university. If they're higher, it would allow us to do that.
And the way the current
but-
rate structure is, we can't do that.
We can't do that under the current structure if they're higher. So the current rate could cover us, but we don't know. July's been a, hot month. for them,
Okay,
so.
I'm just, but we are implementing this before cogen goes online. And this tariff would not only apply to Radford University, but any other entity going forward.
Correct.
Make that clear for everybody if there was a question.
That
It's not
qualifies.
just-
There is some
Yes,
qualification.
but it's not just for Radford University, it's anybody going forward. It's not just
Correct.
we're picking on them, we're protecting ourselves going forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just,
The issue is we found ourselves in a position of exposure with the expiration of the current the previous wholesale power contract. Because the university was going to cogen, they were not included in the power purchase plan that we developed in the fall of 2024. And so that exposure is present. We're just addressing the exposure.
Correct.
Okay. So council, with an effective date of July 1st, 2026, we have ordinance number 1834 that has a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We're getting through a lot of business here. We've got a lot going on. And I'm happy to mention, I should have mentioned this at the start of the meeting, Steve Durbin is joining us this evening as the attorney. Mike Bedsaw, our usual attorney from Sands Anderson, was not available this evening, and Steve has sat in. We're so appreciative to have you join us this evening, and thank you. I work with Steve with the Peppers Ferry Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility, and he always provides us with great information. In fact, one of the things he's been helping us keep an eye on are PFAS, which are forever chemicals, and it's part of a contamination that's in water systems in many places. From the Peppers Ferry perspective, we've been looking at it as the state may be asking the city or asking the entity, the wastewater treatment facility, to test for them. Right now, the city doesn't believe it has a problem with PFAS in its water system. However, we've been identified as a potential Phase 2 class member in the National PFAS Water Contamination System settlement. As of July 1st, 2023, the city's water system has not detected PFAS, but by enrolling, it does protect the city of Radford's right to recover compensation and qualifies the city for recovery from both the 3M and DuPont settlements should PFAS be found in the future. So long story short with this, while we don't currently have a problem, as we do more testing and as this continues to develop and people look through this, we could find that we have this issue. If so, we want to have the ability to participate in this contamination settlement so that money would be available to address those problems for the city of Radford. Todd and Steve, have I addressed that fairly concisely?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So again, the message is we're not dealing with this because we have a known contamination and somebody should be concerned about Radford's water. We're protecting the city from additional risk, much as we were talking about with the other issues. So, council, do you all have any questions regarding this class action lawsuit? Hearing none, do we have a motion to move forward as a Phase 2 class member?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Todd, what do you have for us this evening?
Just a couple items. I wanted to thank staff, especially Public Works, Recreation crew, Water, Sewer, everyone that's been out working in this hot heat, Fire Department, Police. Just appreciate everyone's dedication, service to the city. I know the weather has been rather unbearable, but they're out there still getting the job done. Just most appreciative for that. Second thing, Mary Draper Ingalls Festival is this weekend. I think that's an excellent opportunity for everyone to get out and celebrate the city of Radford's history and to support local organizations and businesses. So look forward to seeing everyone out at the Mary Draper Ingalls Festival this weekend. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Kelly. What do you have?
I don't have anything.
Okay, Jess?
Just keep it brief. I just want to say that when I moved here, gosh, 17 or 18 years ago now, one of the main reasons I chose this community was our school system. So I have the utmost respect for what they're doing, and with the limited resources that they have, I am thankful that we have the reserves currently to help us buffer this, because I do believe the extra funding is important to the school system and it's needed. So just to reiterate that this decision was not made lightly. We all have given it a lot of thought, and I can speak for myself and probably everyone else. We've lost a little bit of sleep over it too, because even though we made the decision that we had to, sometimes those decisions are hard and they hurt your heart, and that's one of them. I've said this before, it's so rare that when we're faced with a conflict that we're giving a really great option and then just a really bad option, and we get to choose between the two. We're given multiple options with different tiers, things that are pro, things that are con, and we have to do the very best without having a crystal ball to make the best decision with the information we have. So Although it was the best decision we can make at this time, it was not one that didn't go without a lot of extra thought. So thank you to the school system, thank you, Todd, and also to council, because we've all, had conversations one-on-one amongst one another, trying to figure out a good way to go about this to meet the need. So thank you to all the parties that had a part to play in that.
Thank you, Jesse. Seth, do you have anything?
No, I think Jesse said it well, and I don't have anything to add, so that's all.
Thank you.
I don't-
Guy, do you have anything?
No.
And I just want to say I'm appreciative of everyone's work. What we try to do here is to find the best path forward for the entire community. And certainly Radford City Public Schools is an essential part of that community in every way, shape, and form. I think the difficult part is there are no easy decisions. And so we're trying to figure out a path that makes us sustainable and robust so that we are able to fund everything at the level we would like to give everybody the best opportunity moving forward. I think there's a lot of good things on the horizon tonight when we addressed the water easement, the easement for the utilities for Tall Oak Center. That is going to be a big part of Radford City's future. And I'm so thankful to Mark Williams, he's here this evening. Thank you to all the people who invest in our community to make a difference, because that is the light. In addition to all the citizens doing all the wonderful things they do, people see Radford as a place where good things can happen and good things continue to happen. And that's how we move forward in positive ways. So with that, we will go on and close this meeting. We will see you in August. Good night.